Whew, are we ready, dude? Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you loud and clear.
It kills me that these
Awesome.
memers
I live
fall
out in the country
directly in.
and my internet's not all that great, so I just wanted to make sure.
Do you have are you using a computer or a cell phone, or?
I'm using my cell phone. I don't use my computer because it always ends up being completely terrible. So.
Gotcha. Okay, you can hear me loud and clear?
I can.
All right. Well, what is, do I call you Patty? Is that what you prefer?
Yeah, you can call me Patty. Patty's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, how do you want to, I'm live now, so don't say anything personal or anything like that.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I saw the Twitch. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, what do you want to talk, where do you want to start?
The whole week has been very interesting. Between you and other people, I think. And I think it's, I think honestly that it's important for us to kind of talk about the things that have gone down on Twitter between you and I and you know, your issues with PewDiePie and whatnot. Or, you know, I've seen a couple other, you know, streams and conversations that you've had. And I think there's a fair conversation that we can have about your hypocrisy. I think you are a huge hypocrite, to be honest with you. I'm just going to be, you know, frank with it. I think you're quite the hypocrite. And so, you know, I guess I want to understand where do you stand with PewDiePie saying the word, saying nigger in so publicly that he did.
Okay, so before we dive too much into this, I think it's a little interesting that you're accusing me of being a hypocrite without knowing where I stand on what PewDiePie said. But I'll give you that opinion.
Oh, well,
Yep.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah,
I think
ahead.
I do know.
Okay.
I think I do know because you've made it quite clear on Twitter that you did not, you know, you were kind of, you made a couple here. I've written me some notes actually, and
Sure.
let me see, and I'm just gonna find it real quick. Oh yeah, here we go. This was a tweet that you made either, I think it was 2 days ago. Good point. No working class black person would ever be upset if you called them a nigger. Why don't you go find some and try it, record it? And I believe this was in response to someone who said that it's just a you know, that it's just a word.
Yeah. Now,
Right.
I think that's a fair response, but I don't think that's necessarily commenting on PewDiePie. That guy was saying, I think that guy's argument was saying something along the lines of like black working class people don't care about the N-word. So if you if you find one of them, you know, you can call them the N-word and they won't care because they've got more important problems. So my response was, oh, that's interesting. Go find a black working class person and call them an N-word and tell me how it goes. I think I said record it at the end.
Do you think a black person would care if you called them an Uncle Tom to their face? Would you go out in public and call them an Uncle Tom?
I mean, I imagine they'd be pretty upset, sure.
But my question is,
but I don't think that's I don't think
do it?
Well, it depends on who I'm talking to. I mean, or the conversation we're having.
No.
Huh?
What do you mean? It depends on who we're talking to. Don't you think a racial slur is a racial slur no matter what?
So I'm not really sure where this came from, but I don't. To me, Uncle
What?
Tom has a very specific meaning. I don't know what you mean by like a racial slur.
What do you think I mean by I'm sorry. What do you think I mean by a racial slur?
I don't know, like just calling someone the N-word. I think you retweeted, or a bunch of people were tweeting me that like calling someone an Uncle Tom is worse than calling them the N-word.
Yeah. Well, do you understand what a racial slur is? I'm just asking. You know, and I'm trying to be as polite as possible about it, but I'm kind of you seem, you know, I think that you're kind of playing stupid, in my opinion. You're kind of playing like you don't know what's going on, like you don't know what you're talking about, or at least that, you know, you're just kind of pretending.
So
I
think the reason you feel this way is because before we ever talked, you ascribed a lot of standard SJW beliefs to me without having any idea what I actually think. I didn't. Okay, well, I actually never came out and condemned PewDiePie for what he said. I mean, I think I mentioned that it was pretty dumb of him to say it, but I never called PewDiePie racist. I never went on about how I think
I didn't say you called him racist. I never said that you called him racist.
Okay, you implied that I was a huge hypocrite, which makes it sound like I took a really strong stance against him saying the N-word. I never actually really did.
Well, you seem to be. You seem to be, though. You seem to be kind of taking a stance that, no, you shouldn't say it, But then here you are also saying it. You said the N-word multiple times. And you know, you said that you said it 5 years ago. Here, you know, another thing that I wanted to point out is that you're kind of a liar, in my opinion. And don't get me wrong. I'm trying to say this like as polite as possible, but I'm not going to mince words to you.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
fine.
going to be
Yeah, that's
honest
cool.
about it. You know, you're kind of, you said in, actually you made a Reddit post a couple days ago.
Yeah,
No,
because I figured,
yeah.
because Twitter is horrible, so I figured I would give a full-on explanation of my views, since a lot of people seem to think that I'm not sure what people think my views are right now. So
Well, here's something that you wrote in your Reddit. For bonus memes, the only time I've ever genuinely used a racial slur against someone was in my early SC2 days, 5 years ago. But the fact of the matter is that we have you saying racial things, such as sending people burning crosses, you know, calling people Uncle Toms, saying racial slurs.
Okay, so I think we should talk about one thing at a time. Insofar as like the Uncle Tom thing, do you think this is comparable to calling somebody an N-word?
Well, here's why. So I think actually in the stream with Jeff Holiday, Jeff Holiday tried to explain a couple things to you. He tried to explain to you that the term Uncle Tom it's a little bit different from nigger. When you say something like nigger, you're saying it, you know, in a hateful way. You're kind of saying this just like you're a nigger in a hateful way. It's just is. With Uncle Tom, you're using two things. You're saying, you're kind of putting two types of insults and slurs in there. You're saying, for one, that this person is looking for the approval of white people simply because they have an opinion. And for second, that opinion that they have is against how they were born. That's what you're saying. That's what Uncle Tom means. And that's why it's a racial slur. Uncle Tom is a racial slur towards black people in particular. Now you can say it, you said that you said it towards trans people. You said it towards, you said it towards white, all sorts of people, whatever. But when you say it toward, you know, and you really shouldn't, if you believe that you shouldn't say nigger, you shouldn't say any racial slur, I would think. And so...
Sure, but I don't think that. I've never said that I have a strong stance against saying any word ever. That's not my stance on language. So for me, generally, what I understand Uncle Tom to mean, and I guess you can load this up more if you want, but what I typically understand it to mean is it's usually somebody that advocates for a platform that is usually counterintuitive of who they are, generally. So if you've got a gay person... What?
So what platform? No, but that's not what you did. What you did, what I said to you, right? You were railing on PewDiePie for saying...
I don't think I was railing on PewDiePie. I think I was talking to Notch.
Okay, but you were talking to Notch, still complaining about the N-word, though.
I think I was just complaining about shit that Notch was saying, because Notch was making... See, you're very frustrated right now because it sounds like I'm trying to weasel out of everything I said, but I'm very frustrated because a lot of people seem to think that I said a lot of things that I never did. I never had
like what?
Like, I never had this harsh condemnation of PewDiePie. I've just never done it. I just haven't done it. The only published material that I put out on PewDiePie was I thought that the Firestrike people were in the wrong for DMCAing his content. That's the only thing that
I agree with you about that.
Okay, that's the only thing I've said. And my views on language are actually far more, like, right-leaning than anybody else in the SJW sphere, right? Most of the people on your side would agree with my views on language. So it's very, not interesting, it's very frustrating to me that I have a ton of people, like, jumping down my throat when they're ascribing to me a bunch of beliefs that I don't have.
Okay, but most people seem to be jumping down your throat because you didn't say Uncle Tom to me in a way that is supposed to correct me about if my views are against my own identity.
Well, because I've seen videos of yours.
No. I said to you, that, but you say the N-word and you said it with the hard R. Your immediate response was not something like, oh, you know, yes, I've said it, and this is my view on language. Your immediate response was, oh, nice. Now I have an Uncle Tom talking to me. That's what you said. Sure.
When somebody, along with everybody else, comes out of the woodwork to defend, I guess, a white gamer's ability to say the N-word, and then wants to start attacking me over shit, and I've seen videos of yours in the past where you did a response video to, so this is why I'm somewhat familiar with who you are. I've seen response videos of you in the past where you decry BLM as a horrible organization. I figured, like, okay, yeah, this is like...
Oh, but do you know why, though? Have you ever asked me why, though? See, but here's
I mean, like, I watched your 30-minute... I mean, you probably, because you think they're all rioters and stuff, and they disempower...
No, I don't, actually. I don't. Here's the problem. You consistently assume about people's views. This may be just something that you personally have had a problem with. You consistently assume about people's views. You did that today. I mean, you said that, good luck voting for someone who wants to keep you from voting. I've never voted for a Republican in my life.
Okay, well, do you think
hold on. I'm still talking. I voted third party. I did not vote for a Republican. And so you assume constantly. I mean, you make these assumptions about people. You don't really ask what their views are. If you wanted to know my views about Black Lives Matter, you're free to ask me. Feel free.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to point out that you started this debate assuming things about me that you have no idea about, that you had to ask for clarification. And secondly, when somebody describes themselves as a conservative, I think that's usually pretty fair to assume that they vote Republican. I guess there's a chance that they're only...
it's not.
Okay. Well, in the
There's
United
plenty
States
of
of America,
that vote Libertarian as well.
So that's a weasel word. When you say plenty, that's
a
a very small minority. Most conservatives vote Republican in the United States. I admit that I could be fully wrong there. Maybe you are a libertarian, but in the United States, when somebody describes themselves as conservative, they're generally a Republican voter. Now, it's possible that you only vote third party, but to say that there's plenty of conservatives that vote libertarian, it's a little disingenuous.
But there are. In fact, the Libertarian Party had such a huge uptick of people voting for them, regardless of if they were liberal or conservative. Here's the thing, like I said before, and so on. Calling someone Uncle Tom just because they think that BLM might be a pretty shitty organization sometimes is still wrong. You don't tell someone that their identity is antithetical to their political position. The only time I could actually believe that would be an appropriate response is if a Black person was in the KKK. Literally, that is the only time I could believe that that's an appropriate response. And do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean, I can kind of understand why you would say that. Why do you use language like white guilt then? Isn't that the exact same thing except directed to the other side?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not against this language. That's the thing. I'm not against it at all.
So if you're not against it and you use the same type of language, why did you go on a 15-tweet firestorm trying to rile up everybody to come after me for being racist?
I didn't rile up anybody. Everybody saw what you wrote and then commented to you. I didn't rile up anybody. I simply showed everyone what you said. And if people got upset about it, then they got upset about it. You shouldn't have said it if you didn't want those responses. Okay. You knew saying Uncle Tom was going to be a response. It was going to be something that's going to cause a shitstorm. I mean, you
not
had
really.
To know
I mean, I talk about people that act as these token figures for the right all the time. I bring up Blair White, Milo Yiannopoulos, and then Alan B. West is usually my go-to, like the self-hating Black person or whatever is usually a go-to.
Okay, but he probably doesn't hate himself for being Black. But there it goes again. This assumption that if someone has these particular views, it must be because they hate themselves, and this is obviously wrong.
Okay.
Don't you think so? I mean,
I don't see how any. No, I don't see how any. Well, but so like a lot of this stems.
What did I say in particular that would prove that I hate my Blackness or that
A lot of this stems, and I admit, you know what, I messed up here. A lot of this stems, when I hear somebody say conservative, I generally assume Republican. But I guess when you say...
That's
sure.
Fine.
So if you don't vote Republican or anything, then I have no... Then I really shouldn't have said it. I apologize. Like, that's stupid. If you're like a genuine libertarian or whatever... Yeah, if you're a genuine libertarian or whatever, then sure. Then, although I don't know how I feel about you being insanely overcritical about BLM or whatever, but... Yeah, sure.
Well, here's the thing. You could always ask me we can talk about that right now. You can always ask me why I feel the way. See, and I don't have a problem with BLM when they actually, get on certain issues. In fact, I praised them a couple of times for being on the issues of Philando Castile and another young Black man who was recently released from prison thanks to DNA testing. See, I don't have problems with Black Lives Matter when they do certain things that is obviously, pro their message. There are other issues that I have with Black Lives Matter, but again, like I said, Black Lives Matter is not, not being for Black Lives Matter does not mean that someone is against their own Blackness. It simply means that they don't want to support an organization that they believe is doing negative or detrimental things.
Sure, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. Most of this conversation was built on the assumption that you were a Republican because you described yourself as being a conservative, but
okay, and even if someone's a Republican, you don't call them racial slurs, do you?
I don't really put Uncle Tom in the same vein as I guess maybe there are better
words
to
use.
But
the thing is, okay, this might sound like kind of racist or at least close to something that SJW would say. That's fine, but you're white. you don't understand the connotation. When a black person says it to another black person, or a white person says it to a black person, there is I would say that for a lot of people, and I've met a lot of black people who come to me, and the first thing that they say is, I feel so removed from my community or removed from black people because every time I have an opinion, I'm called this, or I'm called a traitor to my race. That's what Uncle Tom means, whether you recognize it or not.
Sure. If you feel so strongly that somebody outside of this shouldn't say, then why are you using words like white guilt to talk about white people?
I'm not personally against the language. I'm going to say, I would say, if someone has said it to me, my response to these things is usually that, well, here you go using this language, but you talk about how so pro black or whatever you are. I don't care if someone says nigga. I don't care if someone says Uncle Tom. I don't care if someone, says particular racial slurs. What I have a problem with is the hypocrisy that shows when someone says this. When a progressive says that they are so pro-black, or that they want to hear the opinions or the views of African Americans, and an African American gives a view that's antithetical to their or against their stereotypes, then
Okay.
and they respond with some racial slur, that shows to me that they're hypocritical about their position on this.
Sure.
And I'm noticing that the chat is saying, don't say the N-word. So I apologize. I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, it's fine. So, because I reached out and I admitted that I was incorrect when I assumed your position was Republican based on the little content I've seen of yours, and you describing yourself as conservative. So you said that you noticed this hypocrisy amongst progressives. You're kind of making an assumption about me there that I share progressive beliefs.
Oh, no, I'm not saying you are. It was an example. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that you are.
Okay. Because I don't have a lot of the views, especially on language, that progressives have. I definitely don't share probably the large majority of those views that progressives share on language.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. I was just using an example, just because that kind of language is where I usually hear it from. I was quite surprised to hear it from you, but after seeing the things that I've seen you post before, I wasn't.
Okay, so if I'm somebody that you think says these words all the time, or I have these views on language where I don't care, then why would you retweet it and make a big deal about it and then tweet like 10 tweets following it if you didn't think I had these views?
Because you look like a total hypocrite. That's why.
Wait, but how do I look like a hypocrite if I don't have progressive views?
It doesn't matter. Progressive, conservative, libertarian, it doesn't matter. If you actually believe, if you're going to sit here and tweet things, that first of all, that, so pro-minority, talking with John. And also, you had a stream with John Tron. I watched some of that. Mm-hmm. A lot of, talking about defending minorities and whatnot, defending immigrants and whatnot. If you're going to be so pro these people, and then the first thing that comes out of your mouth is calling someone Uncle Tom, you look like a hypocrite. I'm sorry. That's just what I think,
So
and you obviously disagree. That's fine.
It's impossible to have the views on language that I have while also feeling strongly about minority or immigrant situations?
That's not what I said.
Okay, because it sounded like you said that if I was pro-immigrants, if I was pro-defending...
No. Okay, so let me put it in a little cleaner language.
Okay.
The virtue signaling that I see about, and...
Wait, hold on. What do you mean? What does virtue signaling mean to you?
To me, it's... Okay, so virtue signaling to me is kind of like this fakeness about how...
What is really fake?
Hold on. It's about this fakeness about how you feel about people. So say, you defend minorities. You believe that, you believe that minorities need assistance. You defend minorities. You strongly, believe a certain way, in some sort of positive social justice-y kind of way about minorities. Not saying that you're a social justice warrior, but when you turn around and your reaction to these same people is calling them, racial slurs, to me, that's a form of virtue signaling. It's a kind of covert racism that's just fake. It's this praise for being fake and, rudeness for being convicted in your beliefs.
So if you think I have an entire body of work that revolves around speaking about certain social issues, and I have all of these beliefs and opinions about certain social issues, but I disagree with you about the application of some language, that makes me a virtue signaling hypocrite? Is that a fair summary of that, or do you disagree with parts of it?
In my opinion, you're kind of a hypocrite about these things.
So I'm not allowed to have my
bit,
views on language and also be pro-immigrant or pro-minority? I can't have those?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said, dude. What I'm saying here is that when I'm not sure what you're not understanding. What I'm saying here is that when you say things that you want, that indicate that you are so pro minorities, you're so pro, the helping of minority, you believe in systemic racism, all this kind of stuff, and the next thing you do is call someone an Uncle Tom for questioning you, that's the virtue, that's the fakeness behind your beliefs. It's what I see, and it doesn't matter if you're a libertarian or conservative or progressive. I see it within a lot of people, that spout how much, how I'm not going to sit here and say that you're so pro-minority. I see it in the people who spout off to people like JonTron and all sorts of things, I hope this is making sense. I'm trying my hardest.
I understand, but I'm like, this is why I keep trying to rephrase your question so I can understand it, because it sounds like I'm trying to summarize this so that I can understand it. It sounds like you're saying that on one hand, I say these things where I am pretending to be pro-minority, et cetera, but then when you show up, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When you show up and then you start tweeting in defense of Notch or whatever, who's an abhorrent piece of shit.
I didn't tweet in defense of Notch. Okay, let's stop there. I didn't tweet in defense of Notch. All I did was showcase your hypocrisy.
What hypocrisy, though?
The fact that you're sitting here saying, oh, what do you mean? It's not like, what do you mean black people could possibly be mad when you say the N-word? And then you turn around and call somebody an Uncle Tom? Like, you sit here and say the N-word all the time.
First of all, I don't. Well, hold on. I don't say the N-word all the time. Okay, this is not true. Firstly, secondly,
as much as we would know, when you're not streaming.
I've streamed over 7,000 hours of my life. I've streamed more than anybody else on the internet. There's not very much time that I spend not streaming. Okay, so if I did say it that much, it would probably be slipping out much more, and it doesn't. I very, very, very
But
rarely.
you use that excuse actually on Jeff Holiday's stream that it's just slipped out. The same.
No, I didn't. Nothing I say slips out. What do you mean? What did I say? It slipped out. I've never used that.
Yeah, you said
before.
that actually in Jeff's stream. You said stuff about words just slipping out, just like PewDiePie said.
No. I've never said that. No, words don't just slip out. No, I didn't. Okay,
that's fine. I'll tweet it out, find it for you, and tweet it for you.
Okay, sure. I mean, I know I didn't say that because no, no. Okay, so the person that I was arguing with, it didn't have to do with saying words in general. It had to do with this guy was saying that black people don't care about, working class black people don't care about being called the N-word, right? This is a really common reframe that people on the right will do. Well, they'll say oh, all of your liberal SJW issues don't matter to real black people, to black working class, right? He said they wouldn't care, right? So my response was, okay, so find a working class black person and call them the N-word. You're telling me they wouldn't care? Get it on video. I want to see a recording of that. And then you show up to defend that person by calling me a hypocrite.
Defend him, dude. Can you please point out where in that tweet that I put Notch's name in that tweet that I responded to you? Where did I put Notch's name in order to defend him? Nobody's defending anyone by pointing out the fact that you do the same thing. You use the
I don't
same
call
language.
people N-word. I don't call black people N-words
really?
when I'm arguing. No, I don't call black
people
N-words. No, I don't do this.
Just like you don't call Asians gooks.
I called one guy in the history of my thousands of hours, and I thought he was white when I said it, dude. It was an online game. I didn't know the dude was fucking Asian. I thought he was a white dude. I was playing on the North American server. No, I don't call people fucking racial slurs. It's not something I do.
I don't call people racial slurs.
I do not call
me an Uncle Tom.
I don't consider Uncle Tom to be the equivalent of the N-word. Now, maybe that offends people on the right because they hate that their little token people can't stand for whatever fucked up beliefs they try to push. But no, I don't call black people N-words.
See,
I don't
you already messed up. You did it. You already messed up. Calling people tokens, man. Nobody is in control. This is the same thing that you said to. This is the same thing that you said to me when you were talking about how I have certain views. None of us, Blair White, me, all these people, none of us have control over people taking what we say. We represent ourselves and ourselves only in our opinions. What you believe about minorities is your own personal opinion.
Okay,
that is what you believe is your own personal stereotype of what a minority's opinion is supposed to be. That's what Uncle Tom means. I mean, you really
can you give me a better word to use? Can you give me a better word to use then, and I'll use that one instead, of that we can just bury this now? What's a better word to use?
I don't care what word you use. I really don't. What I'm saying is, don't be mad if somebody points out the fact that you used it, though.
Okay, but what's like a better way to describe the people, the token like mouthpieces for hatred on a side that allow you to get away with it?
Okay, so for example, you said that I'm a token. What opinions do I have that makes me hateful? And
when I can come up and I can say like, oh well, BLM is just a bad organization, they've got a lot of problems. Like, oh well, that seems kind of fucked up. Like, well, no, because I know these black people that say it too, right? People do this. People do it all the time with Blair White, with trans hate. People do it all the time with Milo Minneapolis with gay hate. Like, I think
Milo
Yiannopoulos. Yeah, right? They'll say like, oh, well, gay people are lazy. I would never hire them for work. And I just generally hate gay people. I'm like, whoa, dude, that's really messed up. You're like, well, look, Milo, he's gay. He said he'd never hire gay people. He said he hates gay people, and he wishes he was straight. So how are you going to tell me that that's wrong when I have my own gay person to say it, right? They become like or with Blair White, right? Like, well, trans women aren't really women. They just created surgical wounds. Wow, that's really messed up. How can you say that? Well, Blair White, she's transgender, and she says it. So it's fine for me. What do I use to describe this?
It's still Blair White's opinion. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to run your language, but all I'm saying is that, it's their opinions. If you believe that someone's opinions are bad, you go to the source of the opinion. That's it. You go to the source of the opinion. You don't go to that person and say, oh, well, you just got a token. You just have a little pet. That is so condescending. I don't understand how you or anybody else doesn't understand how that's condescending. You go to the source of the opinion. You combat the source of the opinion. That's what it is.
Sure, I don't disagree with that, but that's just like, that just seems to be what the definition of Uncle Tom meant. It was a person that advocated for a platform that was counter to what they generally were.
Okay, but I want to know what I advocate. You said you called me an Uncle Tom, so what do I advocate?
So I've seen a video of you. So I've seen a video of you being like overly harshly critical of Black Lives Matters, and it seemed like you jumped into a conversation to take on sides with a guy that was trying to say that you should be able to call black people the N-word if they're working class because they won't care. That was the impression that I got.
I did. Okay, how did you get the impression that it's okay to call black people the N-word just because I told you that you use the N-word? How'd you get that impression?
Because how is that even an argument?
How did you get that impression though?
Me
telling you that you use the N-word. How does that give you the impression that it's okay to use the? How does that give you the impression that I'm saying? Just call anybody the N-word?
Even if that was true. We'll say that it's true that I call black people N-words all the time because let's say I do that. Even if that was true, why would you show up in a thread to say like, oh, well, look, this guy's just being a hypocrite, instead of saying something like, oh, well, this guy's right, and he also shouldn't do it too. Like, it makes it feel like you're just there to defend all the other people, all the white guys that want to be able to call black people N-words. Don't you think that's a reasonable feeling to get when you show up and that's the only thing you want to point out? Like, oh, well, look, this guy's kind of a hypocrite. Like, and you don't see how a bunch of other white people could read that and be like, oh, yeah, she called him out. Like, yeah, like maybe we should be able to call people N-words or whatever. Look, she's calling out this white dude about how he's being hypocritical. We should be able to call black people N-words. You don't see how that's the view that like any person reading that tweet could get like pretty easily?
No, and first of all, what other people think is not my problem. Well, if other people are going to come to some weird conclusion, that's not my problem. They can always. See, this is something I tell people all the time. If you're questionable about what I think, you should always come to me, the person who made the comment, about what I think. Not go to somebody else. See, and that's the thing. You keep doing this. You keep saying, this person's saying this stuff about you. That must mean that's what you really think. No, that's not how it works. You ask the person who made the comment itself. That seems really simple to me, because everybody has their own everybody has agency for themselves. Everybody makes their own comments, their own opinion. You ask them, that person who made the opinion. You don't just go, this person's saying this stuff, and that must mean that's what your opinion is.
So
like, for
you
real,
don't think that you have a responsibility to an audience that people might be able to interpret what you say in ways
No, honey. No. My opinion. I have a responsibility to give my opinion. I have a responsibility to be true to myself. If my opinion is my opinion, I have the responsibility to simply be true to myself. If other people agree with that opinion, that's great. I am so happy that other people agree with that opinion. If some people disagree, great. That's great. They can disagree with that opinion. But they're going to have to come to me and ask me, to elaborate on that opinion. And then they're going to have to refute my opinion, and we can have a conversation that way. That's how these things work. You don't just make assumptions about what somebody's opinion is because somebody else said something. If you want to, control your language, Destiny, just for yourself, if you want to control your language, reel in what you say because, you're scared of what somebody else is, you're scared that somebody else is going to use it against somebody, that's you.
Sure, that's fine. We have totally different, maybe because, I don't know, maybe you haven't seen what this kind of outreach can do, but yeah, I guess we have totally different views on the responsibility of the language you use and the type of, like, I see this kind of stuff a lot where people will only defend.
Okay, I got a question for you, though.
Yeah.
If everybody has a responsibility for the language they use, don't you think that you shouldn't have conversations on if incest should be okay? If you're worried about somebody's going to, think that just because you said that, just because you had a devil's advocate moment and argued that incest is okay?
I'm not even sure what your question is. I mean, like, it's pretty clear that I don't support incest.
Well, but didn't you had kind of a devil's advocate thing going on in your incest stream?
Yeah, but I'm very
about incest,
I'm
right?
very clear about my view throughout the entire thing. I don't have any fans that think that I'm like pro like father-daughter raping incest. None of my fans think that.
But what about somebody? But you said but you just said that you saw a couple of my videos. You only saw a couple of my videos, so you came to some conclusion about what you thought that I felt. So if somebody only saw your one stream about, advocating or defending incest, then, don't you think that...
No,
that
I don't think they would, because I'm very clear throughout my view, throughout the entire thing. I'm very clear at the end that I don't support incest. I give very good arguments against it. I'm very clear throughout the entire thing. You never come away from any video of mine questioning my position.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that you were... consistent about that.
Sure.
I just wanted to make sure.
Do you understand?
My point, right?
I kind of get it, but like I disagree with your point. If somebody is saying like you should be able to call any black person the N-word because working black people don't care about it, and then I say, okay, well that's kind of
where did I say that?
Well, no, the other guy said that. Okay.
Oh, okay,
if that
cool,
guy
cool.
says that, and then I'm responding to him, and I'm saying like, okay, I don't think that's true. You shouldn't be able to call even working class black people the N-word. And then a black person shows up and like, well, actually, you're just being a huge hypocrite. You don't see how people view that as like empowering, of like, well, look, I got a black person saying it now, so you're just a hypocrite. I can say. You don't see how people could get that impression?
No, because like I said, my opinion's my opinion. If somebody wants to come to some weirdo conclusion, that's all their own. That's their personal problem. And they can come to me and ask me what I actually think about it. I don't give a shit if somebody decides to say the N-word. I really do not. It does not affect me none. Like, somebody decides to say that to my face, that's fine. The issue here is that you seem to believe that somebody should just kind of rail in their like, regardless, anyway, you still shouldn't call somebody an Uncle Tom. Anyway, really, you just come up with this kind of, but there's a good reason for me to call you an Uncle Tom. It's because
that's because you're equating like Uncle Tom with N-word when I guess I'm.
It is though. I'm sorry,
okay.
But I'm.
Telling white people that they just have white guilt isn't the same level to you, or it's not similar to you, even though it's literally the same thing.
Yeah, I would say that it's close to the same thing.
But then you're saying that it doesn't matter because you don't actually think it's bad to use these words, but then you still get really mad when I say it? I don't understand this.
Oh, I'm not really mad that you said it. I'm questioning your hypocrisy. I'm irritated more with your hypocrisy, not with you actually saying the word.
So if we don't care, if neither of us care about people saying Uncle Tom, then what is this discussion even about?
Your hypocrisy, my friend. Your hypocrisy and your lies. Speaking of which, going back, we can always go back to that Black Lives Matter thing because you kind of like plainly lied that I said it's a terrorist organization. And
I like a terrorist. Like it's not like that. Kind of sounded like what you were getting at, that it was like a horrible movement or whatever.
But here we go again, assuming though. I didn't say it. I didn't say it though. I just what?
Okay. I mean, I guess I can rewatch the video, or I mean, do you want to give me your views or whatever on it? If you want to do that, I guess we could just clear it all up right now.
Yeah, we can talk about it. But here's the thing, like I said before, questioning Black Lives Matter, saying that Black Lives Matter can be quite the horrible, irritating organization, is not calling it a terrorist organization. And you just, I mean, like,
I didn't say you called it a terrorist organization. I never said that.
Yeah,
I said you treated it like a terrorist organization. You were making it sound like they were.
No, we're gonna find this tweet right now. We're gonna go ahead and find this tweet because I'm pretty, in my response to Milo Stewart, it didn't seem like Milo understood that discrimination was bad. That was the issue, mostly with that one too. Okay. And I mean, did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I said, I'm not strawmanning anything. You think BLM is a borderline terrorist org, LOL. That was my exact tweet.
We're gonna go. Do you have the tweet?
Sure, hold on.
I got it right here, I think.
Like,
you just sent it to me?
Yeah. Look at the people that are tweeting at
borderline, though.
Yeah, look at the people that are tweeting at me in agreement with you. Certainly not borderline to organize violence and encourage criminal actions against other political groups. What else would you call something that destroys buildings and threatens citizens for political gain?
But why is that my problem? What people say is what they say. I'm not saying this. What people say is what they say. What other people say to you is not my problem. I am not in control of what other people say to you. I don't control my tweeters.
Sure, I understand. I think we have like very, very, very fundamentally different views on this thing. So
look, if you want to language control your tweeters, that's all you.
Sure,
but I
understand.
I don't have that kind of time. I got a whole farm to run. I ain't got that kind of time. But okay, so here we go. Hold on. I just got these notes and so also, why did you send a burning cross to a black girl though?
Because I thought her comment was really dumb and the tweet was pretty funny.
But you didn't think sending a burning cross would like be misconstrued as racist?
I mean, if you want to call it racist, sure. But I mean, she made a really dumb comment. I thought it was pretty relevant. Like,
you don't think tweeting a KKK burning cross to a black girl is not racist?
So we were having a conversation on something about black pride or something. I don't remember. It was something having to do with that. And she started to make all these comments about how being black was really fucking awesome and it was really good and all this shit. And it, like, the way that she was saying it was just very bizarre because typically black people in America face problems that are very unique to black people. So when she starts saying like, oh, what do you mean? Like, black is awesome. Like being black in America is so good, blah, blah, blah. I was like, and she said like, oh no, dude, being black is lit as fuck. So then I
did she say being black in America is so good?
Is lit as yeah, it was something like that. Like that was the conversation. I mean, we can try to find the exact chain if you want.
I think she said that being black is lit. I think that's all she said.
Well, there was more conversation as that, but like that just seems like a strange thing to say because in a lot of ways, like being black in America is fuck. Okay.
She said, well, boo-hoo then, bitch, because being black is lit. She did not say being black in America is lit.
Okay, well, that seems like kind of a strange statement to make when we're talking about American black issues. So it's lit, you say? Like, as in, like a KKK tweet is pretty fucking relevant?
But she wasn't talking about black issues. She was talking about her blackness. She was just talking about her blackness.
Well, you know what? It's not my problem how other people interpret my message, I guess. I was very clear on what I said. Maybe she should have come to me and she should have talked to me specifically about what I meant. I can't help it if she interpreted my message incorrectly. Like,
that's fine. I mean, that's literally fine, though.
But it's not fine because you quoted this tweet.
Talk about how... It's just weird to me how you talk about, like, you're not racist. I don't send racial slurs, and here you are.
Whoa, but I'm not racist. If you talk to me, it's very obvious I'm not racist. Now you're saying that I should have, like, had her exact interpretation in mind when you just told me that it doesn't matter how anybody interprets your statements?
Are you spurging, dude? Calm down.
I'm not spurging, but you just had, like, a 10-minute diatribe on how, like, I have no responsibility to any interpretations of my language.
No, you don't. You don't.
Okay, but now you're telling me that when she interpreted...
that doesn't apply for you. That's for me. That's my rules. You said that doesn't apply for you.
Okay, and I think my tweet was valid. Somebody saying that being black is lit is a pretty strange statement to make when people literally fucking set black people on fire in the United States. It's pretty fucked up. And I thought it was a relevant tweet. And
you don't think it's fucked up to send a burning cross to her just because she's affirming her blackness?
Wait, she called me a bitch, dude. It was a fucking insult war, man. What do you want me to do?
You called me an Uncle Tom.
Okay.
then you get mad that I'm going to show people that you call me an Uncle Tom.
No, I just don't understand I don't understand the position.
When it only applies to you?
No, I just have a very hard time understanding your position where you're telling me a million times that like these words don't bother you, none of these words bother you, but then when I say it, you're like,
no, they really don't. But like I said before, this is you saying, how anti-racist, pro-minority, pro against systemic racism.
But I can be pro these issues.
But
I can be pro these issues and still have my view on language.
So sending a black woman a burning cross is okay.
Well, how is this like a?
For you, it's okay.
Am I telling her?
You.
Yeah, I don't think this makes you a racist.
You don't think sending a burning cross, which has KKK connotations, to a black person?
No, it's relevant to the conversation. Being black is lit.
Okay.
Lit
All
when
right.
you're in the 50s and 60s being lit on fire. Like, it's a relevant, it's edgy, but it's a relevant joke. But I'm not, what do you think? I'm telling her to go and get burned on a cross? Like, what do you think the implication is here? That I want her to die?
Let me just get this right. Uncle Tom is not a racial slur, and sending a burning cross to a black woman is not racist.
I mean, those are your views too, aren't they? Those are your views too, right? Are they not? Isn't that what you just said?
I'm just making sure, man. I do think sending Uncle Tom, and Uncle Tom is a slur. Like, I actually do believe that. Just like nigger's a slur. And I actually do believe that, sending some... I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this right. I really am.
Well, I mean, it seems like we have like similar views on language, but you keep trying to pull me back to like, well, this is what all the SJWs think. So I'm really confused. You keep trying to say like, wait,
what you don't think talking about? This is all the SJWs.
You keep trying to say like, you don't think this is wrong? No, I don't. I clearly don't. But then you keep trying to say that
So I'm just getting it right. That's all. I'm just getting it right. You don't think sending a burning cross to a black girl is wrong. It's not wrong.
I don't think it makes you racist. I think that when you're fucking banning on Twitter, people say shit. Like, I'm not like saying that like I hate you because you're black. I think you have low IQ genetically. Sorry, go ahead.
If someone came and put a burning cross on my front lawn, it's not racist.
Do you really think that's comparable? Do you believe that?
I'm sorry. It's
Wait, do you really think that's a comparable example? That if I were to go onto your property and threaten you with a burning cross, you think that that's comparable to tweeting a picture at somebody?
It's not threatening me with a burning cross. It's just a meme.
It's violating your property. I'm entering your property and I'm putting a threatening symbol there. You don't think that's like a...
Weren't you entering her tweets and giving her a burning cross?
No.
It's just a meme, bro.
No, there's a huge... if somebody says fuck you on the internet, that's way different than somebody coming up to you in person, standing in your face and going fuck you, right? There's a huge difference there. What do you mean?
I don't know if you noticed, but I'm kind of busting your balls right now. So we're going to go back to BLM, actually. And like I said before, would you like to know my actual views on BLM? Because I was actually just busting your balls. Seriously.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so first of all, I do think that I'm just going to firstly say that Black Lives Matter is an okay organization when they're actually doing things that affirm black lives in a positive way. I'm totally fine with that. And I absolutely do support them in that endeavor. When people get shot unjustifiably, just like Philando Castile, I thought that was a huge blow, not only, to the relationship between black people and the police, but also, I'm a huge Second Amendment advocate. I believe in the Second Amendment. And so, I thought that was a huge blow to the right for black people to carry. I just thought that was. Mm-hmm. And so anyway.
I'm sorry, just so I know, was this the guy that got shot with his wife and daughter in the back seat?
Yeah.
And he told the cop that he had a gun okay, yep, all right, just make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought it was a completely... I thought it was unjustifiable to shoot him. Then I believe that the cop's reaction to that, I think that you know what I mean? I think that the cop's reaction to that kind of showed, that he was wrong. And so anyway, my issues with Black Lives Matter, first of all, starts with their leaders. I strongly dislike their leaders. I don't think that they're very good representations of black people. Or at least because the Black Lives Matter likes to pull itself as a representatives for all black people. Mm-hmm. And I don't like this idea. I don't represent all black people. I represent myself. And I don't like it when other people kind of act like we're in this collective, like we're all brothers and sisters, we're in this collective. I'm just not into it. And they have people like Ashley Shackelford, who calls white people demons, saying whites are inherently racist. Sean King, a liar, stole money from people. He was saying that he was supporting Black Lives Matter, but he actually stole money from Black Lives Matter supporters. And he often fakes and overreacts issues. DeRay lies and overreacts issues. And then his little interview with Katy Perry about, what's it called? Cultural appropriation in braids. That was ridiculous. I thought that was stupid. And then Chanel Helm, who made the article of 10 things for white people to do, which is basically for white people to give all their money.
Yeah, and their property and shit. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I thought that was ridiculous. Now, these are the people that they're talking about. These are the people that they're saying are supposed to be representatives for Black Lives Matter. I just can't get with it. I can't get with this kind of hate. In my opinion, this is a kind of, Black Lives Matter, they have a website. Mm-hmm. They say one of the things that they are committed to having is one, diversity, loving engagement, and empathy. And their behavior does not show any of these things. I absolutely think that their behavior does not show any of these things. And their chapters, too, do not show this type of behavior. They have chapters that are engaging in segregation. They have chapters who are, denying selling things to certain people based on their website. All this kind of stuff is ridiculous to me. And then the last thing, and one that you'll probably disagree with me on, because I think I heard that you are, I don't know, I'm asking you, it's going to be a statement, but I'm asking you. Mm-hmm. I heard that you were kind of a fan of communism. I heard that. I don't know if that's true. So, and now that I'm talking to you, I can ask. And so that's another thing. They're very socialist communists. They believe in this collective. They call each other comrades. That stuff I can't get with. I'm a constitutionalist, capitalist, and I just cannot get with that. And so, I'm sorry. This is just kind of stuff that I just cannot get with. And that's more, I guess, elaborate why I kind of feel that Black Lives Matter is a little bit of a horrible organization. There are a lot of things that they can do, besides kind of affirming this conspiracy-like behavior in the Black community to actually help Black people. Does that kind of elaborate a little bit better for you?
Sure. It's a better defense than most people give. So my first problem is I don't know of any individual. I know that there are generally people that are associated with certain chapters of BLM, but I don't know of any individual, if you can claim that like an individual represents all of BLM, right? There are many different chapters. There are many.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think what?
That's why I mentioned they're different leaders. Well, that's why I mentioned they're different leaders, but when they have chapters who are actually, using a kind of systemic, like, I'm going to call it systemic because almost like institutions, because they're organizations. When they're using kind of institutional discrimination in their chapters, I want nothing to do with it. And and their leaders are holding that down and are okay with it and not saying, hey, cut that out. I'm just not cool with it.
Sure, and I can understand this. So a lot of my disagreement here is going to stem back to our responsibility as public figures that we very much disagree on. So we're probably not going to agree at the end of this. So I think that there are elements of BLM that are probably problematic. There are people that I don't remember the name of that woman that you mentioned, but I remember reading her list of the 10 things of white people giving up their property, of different people that are associated with different chapters of the movement that are probably fucked. But overwhelmingly, for the most part, most BLM, and when I say most, I mean 95+% BLM demonstrations are just fine. There's no violence, there's no rioting, nobody's doing shit. And in general, and maybe you would disagree with this, I would say that in general, BLM's messaging is pretty okay, right? That we need to do something about about cop on black violence. So that's something that we need to address.
I don't disagree with you about that. I actually strongly believe in police reform. So
sure. So the problem, okay, and this is I'll pull this back and then focus this. The problem that I run into with a lot of people is that what happens is when you're insanely critical of certain things, it's very easy to pick up an audience that thinks that you have a particular belief that you never really dispel. So maybe in your other long-form content, you talk more about the positive things of BLM. Maybe you do that more, and if you do, then that's my mistake for not watching you more and reading through more of your videos or looking through more of your videos. But it was possible with that video that I saw saw, I could have taken that whole video and sent it to a friend and go like, look, this is another black person that thinks that BLM is largely wrong in their messaging, that they've got a lot of problems and that it's a bad thing, right? That if all you are is critical of something, that it's really hard for most people to come away with the opinion that, oh, well, she thinks that it's largely okay. She just has a few problems with some problematic elements of it, right? Which it sounds like.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like I said before, that person making that assumption is 100% their fault. What I expect people to do as adults, or at least young people, what I would hope it be at least young people watching that kind of content, and mature enough to watch it, is that these people go for themselves to understand what that person's actual and full view is. If someone believes that what someone says in that moment, that in that moment, is 100% the only thing that they believe, that's their problem. That's their fault. They have a responsibility to see what that person fully believes.
I guess, but like that's not what happens ever in real life. Like even you demonstrated
yes,
that in
I
this
have
conversation.
People who actually ask me.
Okay, so I am on record in long form defending United forcibly removing a person from a plane, defending a school from firing an employee, that people defending like large businesses and immigration policy that benefits large businesses. Like I am ardently free market and very pro-capitalism. It like disgustingly so. Like my politics section on my Discord is a bunch of commies that fucking hate everything I say. But you
and I would agree with that.
Sure, but you think that I am a communist because of a 30-second clip that you saw on the internet.
No, I just said to you that I'm asking you. It's going to sound like a statement, but I'm asking you. I heard, and I said I don't know if that's true. That's why I said that.
But that was kind of your assumption coming in. That you said you were like, I don't. You might have.
I asked you.
Okay, well, you said that you might.
It was a question that's going to sound like a statement. I told you that. I warned you that.
Yeah, it sounded like you're warning me that I might agree with BLM's communist chapter because you've heard that I'm a communist. Okay, that was the impression I had. I'm sorry.
I heard someone said that you were defending communism. That's why I said that, I'm going to say that it's a question, sounds like a statement for you to clarify. If I didn't, say that better, for you to clarify. I didn't like magically think you were a communist. That's why I was asking.
Sure. But there are like a lot of people that believe that I am a communist because they've seen a 30-second clip on the internet. Because even though I have a full body of work that is ardently anti-communist, pro-free market, pro-capitalism, there are people that because they've seen a 30-second clip of my work think I'm a communist, right? So it seems like the messaging is really important, that you could say the wrong thing and then people could take it and run with it. That seems like a reality, like something that actually happens.
But don't you think that person has a responsibility to ask you personally?
Well, but pragmatically, that's just not what happens. So it seems like you have to...
But I'm asking you, don't you think that they have a responsibility? It doesn't matter if it's pragmatic or not. Don't you think that they have the responsibility to do so?
I mean, I would hope so, but you have to take the world for what it is, not what you want it to be, right?
Well, I've had plenty of people, and it could be just because you have a large body of followers. You have a really large amount of people who follow you compared to me. I have 9,000 followers, and you have something like 30,000, maybe. I don't know. 60,000, maybe higher than that, depending on what media platform you're using. And the thing is that I've had people ask me, okay, so I heard you say this. What do you fully think about it? And I've answered, it's not my problem if somebody else comes to some weird conclusion. It's up to those people to decide to ask me personally. I really don't have time to try to, for some people, they need to damage control everything that they do. And I just don't have time for that.
I guess it just doesn't feel very realistic that I could personally address every question if I guess like the most common example I give of this is there are a lot of people on YouTube that will say like I'm very anti-Trump, but then when you go to look up their videos, every single video they have is just them attacking Trump supporters. So
okay, and I heard
attacking like anti-SJW. Sorry, yeah, I brought this up in my conversation with Jeff Holiday, right?
Right, yeah, and so I actually. It's interesting to me because I don't think that those people can be, and people can hold two positions at the same time. Like you were mentioning before, when I was messing with you, about how people can hold two positions at the same time. There's kind of this thing going on where some people, and even I get into it sometimes, but some people want to talk about how much Trump is irritating them, but then they have idiots who become mainstream saying something that's obviously false. And they feel that it's more important to address what was obviously false before addressing, you know, what they have an issue with, you know, what issue they have with Trump. Do you understand what I mean?
No, I'm sorry. Wait, could you say that again?
Okay. Some people, the people who have issue with Trump, like you brought up Sargon, and
Sure.
I don't want to bring up Sargon a lot, because once you get into Sargon, you could talk for days about Sargon, I've noticed. And so, you know, with Sargon may not like Trump, but sometimes he does criticize the people who hate Trump. And a lot of it's because those people are spreading lies, and those lies become mainstream. Now, there are things that, you know, just recently, The Hill kind of said that Sanders, the spokesperson for the White House, said that that the White House demanded for Jamel Hill, I can't remember her name, but it was the ESPN reporter, to be fired. That the White House demanded this. And the reality was that Sanders actually said that it was a fireable offense. Nobody demanded she be fired. See, that's the issues, though. That's the issue. This stuff becomes mainstream. Thousands and thousands of people see it. And, you know, kind of the real issues that people are actually concerned about concerning Trump don't actually get out there, because the media kind of hides the real issues for these kind of, you know, fake surface level issues. And I think that's kind of the problem that a lot of people like Sargon or anybody else has. Okay, but I don't watch a whole bunch of Sargon stuff, so, you know, quizzing me on what Sargon says, I'm going to be clueless about it, because I don't watch a whole bunch of it.
Yeah, sure, but do you see how, like, if you say that, like, I believe a certain thing, but then you never, ever defend that viewpoint, and all you do is attack people that attack that thing, it makes it seem like a little, like, you don't actually believe that? Like, if I were to say, like, oh, like, I really, like, let's say that I really love capitalism and free markets, and every video I put on my channel is attacking people that are anti-communist and attacking people that are pro-capitalist. I do that all the time, but then I'm like, oh, but I really am pro-capitalist. You see how people get, like, I would start to build a fan base of communists and Marxists and socialists. Like, those would be the people that would follow me, and I would.
Okay, but I got a question. Did you not say that in your own videos that you actually affirm that you are pro-capitalist?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Yeah, like a lot of my arguments revolve around business and personal rights. Like the United thing was a huge thing that I stood against a lot of my fan base on, because they didn't think they had the right to remove him from the plane, and I'm a big property rights and everything. So yeah, there are a lot of videos of me being very ardently pro-capitalist. But like, let's say that I say that I have a position, like I am pro-capitalist, but all of my videos are just attacking capitalists, and all my videos are attacking people that attack communists. It would be very easy to gain a fan base of communists, right? Do you agree with that could happen?
It could happen, but once they go on your Twitter or whatnot, they're going to see that it's actually the opposite.
But that's only because I say that on my Twitter too. But what if in all of my messaging, like if you go right now?
Okay, but doesn't Sargon do the same thing? He goes on Twitter and he said he never criticizes Trump. Is that what you're saying?
If he does, it's incredibly rare, and it's so soft that it's like barely a criticism at all. Similar to like,
does it have to be a harsh criticism in order to convey criticism?
For me to think that you don't like him, yeah. Or I can give an example with Blair White when she was on the Dave Rubin once. Like for Blair White, you know, how do you think that Trump feels about trans issues? When we talk about like the transgender ban, this should be a really easy question to answer. It was a really abhorrent thing. It was a bad thing. The way that Trump went about doing this was bad, but it was like pulling teeth to get her to admit that it was a bad thing. When he was like, how do you feel about the trans thing? She's like, well, I have really mixed feelings. In one way, I kind of feel like it was really bad, but I also understand. She's like, okay, so I don't really get the impression that you're a huge anti-Trumper here. It sounds like you're either lukewarm or you kind of like him and you're making excuses for something that should be like an easy no for you.
But why does she okay, you don't have to be anti-Trump to say that you feel, that you kind of feel a certain way about it.
Oh, I'm sorry, but like she said in the past that she's not pro-Trump. She said that in the past.
Okay.
So.
Okay. But like I said before, this one opinion of hers, just because she feels lukewarm about it, does not it's not, you know, I don't see how one could just define if I don't see how one could just define if they are pro-Trump or anti-Trump or not. by this one specific question.
No, it's not that one specific question. It's just a combination of things. It's when people say all the time, like, oh, I'm very liberal, I'm anti-Trump, and then all of their content is, look at what this crazy BLMer said, look at what this crazy feminist said, look at what this crazy Bernie supporter said, look at what this crazy CNN and mainstream media said. It's like, okay, you said you were like,
okay,
really
but like I said before, I'm sorry I cut you off, but like I said before, is that once again, these crazies become the mainstream. This is what everybody is seeing. So now you have to refute what everyone is seeing before you actually, say how you actually feel about Trump. If you hate lies, you're going to combat the lies, and then you're going to talk about your feelings. That's how some people just are. I mean, if you want to run your channel a certain way, fine. But if other people just don't operate that way, and that kind of just goes right back to the whole, Uncle Tom calling people tokens, having certain opinions thing that you believe might be antithetical to their entire existence. Everyone's brain does not work the same way. That's just not how our brains work.
I guess it just seems like it's just paying lip service to me. Like, it seems like a really disingenuous position to take. Like, there's plenty of time to call out both sides. It's not like, like these people have hundreds of videos calling out SJWs. Like, there's no shortage of like random tweets and Tumblr posts to find if that's all you want to do. But if you never make a video criticizing Trump, and there are very good issues to do it on, like what am I supposed to think about this person? Like, you can say one thing, but how can I possibly ignore all of this content that you put out and try to assume?
Or you could always ask them.
Well, but that's not realistic. Sargon's 500,000 fans aren't going to ask him.
All you do is Twitch all day. You just said that the majority of your time is sitting there on Twitch talking to people or playing a video game. You have all the time in the world to go ask someone what their actual views were. You had all the time in the world to ask me what my actual views were.
Okay,
Seriously.
But an average person can't ask Blair or ask Sargon or ask Chris Reagan or iDubbbz or a million other people. An average person can't just like email them like, hey, what do you think about this issue? That's not very realistic.
You could. Yeah, you could. I've inboxed Blair before. She's answered me before. I've inboxed Sargon. I haven't inboxed Sargon, actually. I've tweeted at Sargon. He's responded to me before. That's what kind of social media is for. You have the ability to ask people. If somebody decides that they don't want to, that's their problem. That becomes their issues, not the other person. Everybody has a personal responsibility to actually affirm what they thought somebody else believes. Just like you had a responsibility to ask me before you even tweeted that I said that Black Lives Matter is a borderline terrorist organization, or after you saw my video. You could have just went into my inbox instead of taking that time tweeting. You could have went into my inbox and just asked me.
Okay, even we'll get past the ridiculous assertion that everybody could email Sargon to find out his position, which I don't think you're being very fair here. I don't think that's a reasonable thing that most people can do. But even if we get past that, even if
people on the internet,
yeah, if Sargon got 100,000 emails asking for clarification on a view, I don't think he could reasonably respond to all of them. Right.
Well, I think like you said before, not everybody's going to say something, but again, that's their problem. Seriously, I'm just the kind of person. I just don't have time. If somebody wants to misconstrue my views, I'll be glad to correct them, but I'm not gonna sit here and try to make multiple. I just don't have that time. By the way, I don't have a lot of content on my YouTube in the first place because I have a lot of other things that I need to get done. I'm running a farm. I have a husband and I got a kid. I'm working on a house and a farm. Some people just don't have that kind of time. And I mean, maybe you should consider the fact that some people don't have that kind of time. Some people are just really, interested in combating, lies before talking about their actual opinions.
I mean, but this is how people operate. It sounds like you just want to have no responsibility in your messaging for how an audience will
It sounds like you don't want to have any responsibility for how an audience acts.
Because they don't. Because this isn't how audiences act. They don't.
Yeah, that's how people work. If you have a question, if you're unsure about something, you should ask. Just like you should have.
So for real. People make pretty predictable assumptions about people's content based on what they do. It's very easy to watch a dozen or 24 Sargon videos and come away thinking he is an ardent Trump supporter. To say that that's possible, but it's okay because they could email him to get his actual opinion is ridiculous.
No, it's not, because it's very simple to email somebody. Don't you think in that time that you tweeted at me a lie about Black Lives Matter, you could have just slipped into my DMs and, say, oh, what do you really think?
Maybe in this particular circumstance I can, but one, I'm not going to do this with
No,
every
but I'm
single person.
asking.
Well, I'm a larger figure, so maybe you would respond to me just because. But do you think I could do it with, like, if fucking Bill Mayer says something on Real Time with Bill? I don't even know if that show still exists, but if he says something on his show, do you think I can just, like, slide into Bill Mayer's DMs and ask him, like, yo, dude, that thing you said about Islam, did you really mean that? Like, do you think he's going to take the time to respond to every single individual? Like,
I don't know. He could. You could get lucky. I mean, there are people who are celebrities all the time who do actually respond to it. And I understand, like I said before, but this is another thing. He's also busy. He's not going to make something just to make sure that you understand it. Your problems, you are not always what somebody is thinking about when somebody makes a video. People aren't always thinking about, oh, but this one person might misconstrue my message.
but you should be. That's part of your responsibility of being a public figure. Is you have to be aware of
so don't you believe that you should always do that?
Yeah, for
Do you
sure.
believe-
I
Right,
try to.
so-
I mess
but
up
why
every now and then,
didn't
sure.
you?
What?
Okay, but that's the point. All right.
Wait, what's the point? What do you mean that's the point?
That sometimes you're a hypocrite. Sometimes you don't follow through with what you actually believe in. That was the whole point of this conversation. That sometimes you don't follow through with what you believe in or what you always think. It's the whole point of this whole conversation.
Wait, how is that?
Not
how is
everybody is so, not everybody, like I said before, you spend the time on the internet, on Twitch, you have that time to do that. You could do that whenever you want to. And I know for a fact that you could actually get into contact with Sargon. You could actually get into contact with Sargon and have a conversation. You couldn't you?
Well, yeah, I've had two, but he's never going to talk to me again because of past
What
history.
did you do? Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, and I understand, I understand people get into these like little tiffles and whatnot, but like I said before, people do have a responsibility to go and ask. If I did something like spread a lie and said that, so-and-so said this, somebody's probably going to correct me along the way. Somebody's probably going to correct me along the way. But in the meantime, it's always worth it to at least ask. You see, and I'm not going to get upset because somebody, misconstrued my position. Just like the guy that was on Twitter, and he said that I said something about Beyonce, and I said something about Black Lives Matter and whatnot. And I said, like, first of all, did you even watch the video? And then second of all, then after that, I clarified and I said to him, now after I said that, what did he do? I mean, you saw it. He didn't even believe me. He didn't. I mean, he pretty much said, like, F you, I don't believe you. So, I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I guess, like, I can get a response to somebody like Sargon, but I don't think an average person could email them. Like, I feel like if you put out like enough videos and the messaging becomes pretty obvious that you're building a fan base that doesn't necessarily agree with you, but you don't talk about the things you disagree with because you're like scared of losing that fan base or something. I don't know. That feels really dishonest to me.
Who's doing that?
A lot of a lot of quote-unquote liberal skeptics that say they're very anti-Trump, but they never criticize them. They never put out negative...
But do you think that they're doing it because they don't want to lose their fan base? I mean, this is another
I think it's
assumption,
making
though.
money. Yeah, it's an assumption, but, like, I don't know. What else can I possibly think?
You could just think that maybe they want to combat lies first before they give their opinion.
But that's just paying lip service. Why not just say you're a big Trump fan? Don't make video after video defending him.
If you're not a Trump fan, okay. If you're not a Trump, telling someone that they're lying is not necessarily defense. It's just telling someone that they're lying. Period.
Okay, but if you say that you're anti-Trump, but every video you make is pro-Trump, how are you anti-Trump?
How is pro-Trump just saying that someone's lying about something?
Because if they say I don't like Trump, but then they make pro-Trump video after pro-Trump video after pro-Trump video.
Okay, but this is where we disagree. I think is that you believe that pro-Trump is combating someone's lies against Trump. I don't think that's pro-Trump. I think that's just combating a lie. And I actually do think that Sargon and or Blair or any of these other people, I think Shoe on Head does this. Now, Shoe on Head, always interesting when you mention her because some people feel a very certain way about Shoe on Head, some people don't. But Shoes to me seems pretty clear about. She might say, "Hey, somebody's being a total idiot about Trump," and then she'll say, but I don't really like Trump, or something Trump did is stupid, or she's pretty clear about that. And I'm fine with that, but she does that on her own time. She does that when she feels like it. I feel like you kind of expect someone to just do it just cause, not just cause somebody feels like it.
But then these same people are defending things like, or saying that like maybe Pizzagate happened, and defending like WikiLeaks and Assange, and it's like at some point you have to wonder like, do you actually not like Trump, or are you actually like massively pro-Trump, but you don't want to say it because you like to call yourself a liberal, or like I don't know. I feel like at some point it becomes paying lip service to something like.
But don't you think? I mean, But what do you do when don't you go and ask? You say, hey, you want to talk in a stream about this?
Well, like I don't know. You be clear. No, you clarify your positions. If you're a fan of mine, for instance, you'll know.
How can you clarify a position if you don't even know that people are questioning that position?
Because it's obvious if they're questioning it, right? Like,
it's not obvious to them.
It should be. It should be obvious. It is. I think it is obvious to them, but they don't say anything. For instance, I voted for Hillary Clinton, okay? But if you've ever listened to my stream, there is no question in your mind that I fucking hate Hillary Clinton. That's nothing you have to think. You're never going to walk away from one of my streams where I say, oh, well, I'm really anti-Hillary, but man, I hate Trump, and I hated Trump, and, Hillary's spots on this were, Hillary's, yeah. But I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump. No. During the election time, I was full on. I hated Hillary's foreign policy. I thought she ripped off Bernie's policies in a lot of different ways. I think her messaging was fucking atrocious. I had a ton of criticisms for both sides. I didn't just pay lip service and say, well, I don't like Hillary, but now let's talk about all these problems with Trump. No, I preferred Hillary over Trump for policy-related reasons, but like I'm not sitting here all day, like saying like, well, I don't like Hillary, but then never attacking a position of hers. Whereas like all of these internet skeptics will do the same thing, and I assume that you did that with your content. But you say you have pro BLM videos that I'm not aware of. But where you say something like, like, oh yeah,
no, I didn't say I have pro BLM videos. I said that I've praised BLM on my Twitter before. I have a very
so
channel.
if I would go through
and the
all of your channel,
is because I'm still building my channel.
Gotcha.
I have a very small channel because I'm still building it.
Okay.
I took a huge break in the middle of when I got pregnant. I took a huge break, and so I actually like stopped making videos. So it kind of halted. Well, I have like 40 videos on there, and at this point, some of them are just get to farming. And
sure. So
I'm still building them.
Let's say that I never asked you what your position on BLM was, okay? Let's say that I never asked you that. If I watched every video on your channel, would I come away thinking that you were pro or anti-BLM? If I never clarified your position and I just went by the things you were saying. Is it mostly criticisms of BLM or mostly defenses of them?
It's going to be mostly criticisms because I actually do believe that BLM is a horrible organization.
Okay.
Right?
I guess I thought earlier that you said that BLM's messaging and everything was mostly okay.
No, I praise them occasionally when they do things. What they do does not actually reflect what they say that they believe. I do believe that they're quite a horrible organization because of how they operate.
And when you say you mean a select few leaders, or what you consider to be a select few leaders
the
of
organization.
some chapters.
As long as those leaders run that
organization,
that's how they are.
I mean, like,
they're organization. They have a whole website. They have chapters.
Like, it's not like you're like a dues paying, like you get like a BLM card and you're part of like the BLM movement.
Well, that's part of my problem as well with BLM is that they don't actually have they're not like the NAACP. They don't have a sense of actual membership. Anybody can say that they're BLM and do some crazy stuff and then say, oh, but I'm BLM. See, and that's my problem with that.
Some movements are like decentralized, right? They don't have like a central leadership or central. Like, I guess like you could say like, do you remember Occupy Wall Street? Like that's an example of a group without like.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge Occupy Wall Street fan either.
Sure, if you're a capitalist, of course, yeah. I wasn't either. I think most of their messaging was fucking idiotic as fuck.
It was pretty crazy.
But it's a similar kind of thing as BLM. You kind of have a like you could summarize like Occupy Wall Street generally stood for anti-big business, anti-massive corporation, and that kind of stuff, right? That was like the same thing with BLM standing generally for anti-police violence against black people and it's kind of like black civil rights, although focusing on the police thing or unfair killings of black people by cops, which is generally a good thing. And there are thousands of BLM demonstrations that are fine. There are a few people that kind of fuck it up, but that's true for every movement. There are always going to be bad apples in every movement, right? Or in every movement, right?
Yeah, but it's not just it's that the bad apples are actual leaders. That's part of the issue.
I mean, like, you can organize a BLM demonstration without ever contacting a leader for approval or getting guidance from a leader.
Here's the thing. if I went to a BLM, if I went to a BLM rally or organization or organizational meeting, and somebody sat there and asked me how do I identify, and I said as conservative, I'd either be kicked out or I would be, irritated, bothered, like just somebody would bother me about being conservative.
Sure.
Because Black Lives Matter. Look,
to be fair, I think when people hear conservative,
that I think you don't quite understand.
Well, here, just to be clear, real quick, when you say conservative, and I understand that you don't mean it this way now, but I think most people, when they hear conservative, they think Republican. Much the same way that if you were to say, like, oh, I'm a liberal, nobody's going to assume that you're Green Party. When you say liberal, they're going to think Democrat. So if you're like, oh yeah, I was a liberal.
I don't know. Liberal. Honestly, I think you can kind of.
In U.S. politics,
statistically, they're going to be. I get what you mean. Statistically, they're going to be Democratic.
Like 98%.
With liberal, I kind of see. For me, because the progressives and liberals are splintering, and some people don't consider themselves liberals anymore because they're more for progressives or communists or socialists. You know what I mean?
No, I understand. I'm just saying that, like, if you say that you're like a liberal, most people are going to assume you're a Democrat. If you say you're a conservative, most people are going to assume you're a Republican, right?
Yeah.
Now, I understand in your case now that's not necessarily true, but I'm sorry. But okay, so go ahead. You said that if you were out of movement and you said you were conservative, you would get hate for it. Okay.
I would get tons of hate for it. I mean, I've always gotten hate for it. Period. In fact, after I graduated college, when I joined the conservative students, the college conservatives. That's when I went to college. I joined the college conservatives, and we had to momentarily change our name to College Republicans because the Michigan Republican Party was paying for our trip to CPAC, and then we changed it back to conservatives after we went. And so when I joined that, I had a boyfriend, and the moment that I joined that and then joined the pro-life party, he started verbally abusing me. And I mean, it got to the point where he threatened physical abuse. Now, he's not the only one who's done that. He's not the only one who's done that. This kind of stuff is rampant. Now, about 46 or 45% of Black Americans in the United States identify as conservative, and 47% identify as liberal. See, and this shouldn't even be controversial that someone's a conservative. But you get into a lot of people who they themselves don't realize that they're actually conservative. And so they start abusing people who identify as conservative. I get it all the time. It's just something that goes on in the Black community that, is extreme. It's just extremely rampant. And I think a lot of it has to do with how Black people have been encouraged to vote Democrat, even if they're conservative. Now, my mother's a conservative Democrat. She goes to church. She doesn't believe in gay marriage. She doesn't, she's against the whole idea of these double genders and all that stuff, but she votes Democrat still. It's odd. It's just something that goes on in the Black community. And it's just another thing I just can't get with Black Lives Matter, because they don't value intellectual diversity for African Americans. They just don't.
So I think the problem there is, so firstly, I don't know where that specific number comes from. I'm pretty sure that there was
from the hold on, I'm sorry. It comes from the Center for Political Studies.
Okay, so I don't know.
University of Michigan.
Maybe Black people identify in that margin as conservative, but I think it was like 90-10 voted for Hillary over Trump in the election.
Well, and 90%, above 90% voted for Barack Obama.
Sure, well, of course, but like for Hillary Clinton, it was like 90% of Black people voted for Hillary over Trump. So I think the number. So I think the problem might probably. I'm going to guess because I can't speak for Black people, but I think it's kind of obvious. I think the problem is that usually the Republican Party as a platform advocates for some positions that are kind of demonstrably like anti-Black positions. Like when you're talking about things like gerrymandering or voter ID laws, like a lot of these are just like anti-person of color positions that make it really hard to throw your hat in with a group and not have other people get upset at you for it, I think. Would be like,
well, I kind of disagree with you just a little bit, and I'm going to not with gerrymandering, but actually, Democrats and Republicans pull that kind of crap. It's annoying, but with voter ID laws. Now, I live in a voter ID state, and you mentioned North Carolina, I believe. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if it was with Jeff or somebody else, but you mentioned North Carolina, and North Carolina's voter ID laws are actually were stricter before it got shot down by the Supreme Court, stricter than Mississippi's. And in Mississippi, you can either use a registration card, you can use a driver's license, you can use a passport, you can use your job application, you can use your proof that you work somewhere in Mississippi, you can use proof that you are married. Any of these things are considered identification, state issued identification, and you can, do this and vote, period. Now, North Carolina, I'm going to get my notes real quick. North Carolina was different because North Carolina did not cut early voting. They eliminated out of precinct voting, and they only used specific types of photo ID.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that voter ID is racist, because you need a photo ID to buy alcohol. You need a photo ID to go on welfare. You need a photo ID. All of these things that greatly disproportionately affect the Black community. I don't believe voter ID is racist. I believe that doing things that make it harder to get voter ID or some sort of identification for African Americans or any minority is racist.
Sure, but the
Does that make sense?
The problem with a lot of these people is that the motivations end up being very racially charged. Like the North Carolinian motivations were specifically trying to get Black people not to vote. Like that was
I agree.
intention.
I actually agree. Yeah,
sure.
I actually agree. And they actually caught audio of someone asking it was either audio or somebody just told someone
they asked for the racial breakdown of the data.
Yes, they asked for a racial breakdown of the data, and I agree with you. It's this idea, period, that voter ID is racist that I don't get with.
Well, the problem is that because generally a lot of it seems like, for instance, we don't have any evidence of voter fraud in the United States occurring on any reasonable level. So to restrict somebody's access to a constitutional right, you described yourself as a constitutionalist. I don't know if you mean strict or not, but like typically you need a really, really big reason to do that, right? Like I assume that you're probably...
Oh, I understand.
Yeah. And Republican is also the party of like the war on drugs, which as a libertarian you are probably...
Which I don't agree with.
Sure.
I don't
or
like
things
the war
like
on drugs.
Or like stop and frisk, right? Giving cops
I don't agree with stop and frisk.
Yeah, of course. And these are all very big... These are Republican positions, not Democrat
yes,
positions.
I know.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are a lot of these positions, when you talk about like stop and frisk in New York, when you talk about like the criminal justice system, when you talk about voter ID laws, when you talk about gerrymandering, and you might say both parties do it, which to some extent is true, but the most gerrymandered places are typically Republican. Republicans are the major users of this tool. Democrats do it a little
disagree.
bit. Sure, right? This is why if you go to if you go to like a Black meeting or something and you call yourself a conservative, people assume that's Republican, and it's like, okay, well, what the fuck are you doing here? You're for a party, right, that is literally... I hate to restate this, but like antithetical to your existence, right? You're for a party that wants to stop and frisk you, that wants to lock you up in jail for twice the time as a white person if you get caught for something, that wants to gerrymander the fuck out of you to keep you from voting, right? That's probably where the anger comes from, I imagine.
It is where the anger comes from, but again, it's a source of ignorance. It's an ignorance on their part, and this is another thing, like, talking about. And it seems to me, if I say I'm conservative, then I need to start spouting off all these things that I don't believe in about Republicans. See, it's that person's problem who comes up with these assumptions of who they think that I am just because I identify as constitutionalist or conservative. And it's not just conservative. It's if you say constitutionalist. I had one person a couple days ago say, "Oh, I bet she's a libertarian." Even though libertarians are probably one of the most pro-Black parties out there, it's just, well, I mean, and I'm saying this compared to a lot of other. I don't believe Democrats are all that pro-Black. I just don't. They're covert racist. They say things behind your back. In fact, and I know I don't know if you don't like WikiLeaks or not, but did I just say WikiLeaks? Yeah, I'm thinking. I've been watching South Park like for 3 days now,
sure.
And so. In WikiLeaks, they released a email of people making fun of a Black woman's name, and I'm like, these are supposed to be Democrats. These are supposed to be progressive Democrats that are so pro-Black, and then they do things like go behind your back and make fun of your name, or
think that an email where somebody's making fun of somebody's name is evidence of covert racism amongst the Democratic Party?
No, I don't think it's for all of the Democrat Party. I'm just saying it's some of the things that I've seen from Democrats, from progressives, from these people that just make me, no, I don't want to be associated. I do not want to be associated with Democrats or progressives.
But you don't mind being associated with a party that has actual, like, anti-Black policy?
I'm not associated with Republicans. I've never voted Republican.
Okay,
I told you this.
Because it's just conservative.
I've never voted Republican. I voted Constitution Party. this past election, even though, you know, my vote really didn't count, but I could not vote for Hillary, who says things like, yeah, I keep hot sauce in my purse, like stupid things like that. I just can't. It's not something that I'm cool with. And I mean, it may sound petty for you, but it's not for me. And it wasn't for a lot of black people. A lot of black people got really upset when they found out that, you know, voting for Hillary was basically voting for a lesser evil, or whatever the kind of evil they believed. Mm-hmm. That's what it was for them. Because sitting there, you know, I met a lot of black people who sat there saying, I hate her. I can't stand her. She's so, you know, she's racist. And then they had to go do things like vote for Hillary because, you know, Donald Trump was even worse. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and that's, I actually thought Hillary was going to win the election.
Yeah, most people did. Yeah.
You know, yeah, I thought she was going to win. And then I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And so, and that's like almost when we got this farm, because we decided that all hell was going to break loose and we didn't want to be a part of it. And so, you know, there's a lot of, this is why going back again to that whole Uncle Tom thing, that, you know, there's this huge intellectual divide in the black community. And, you know, a lot of it has to do with the institutional and systemic racism of the past, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, how people are still stuck in that mindset. I don't believe that institutional racism and systemic racism are as bad or even as existent as they were in the past. They're just not. We don't have those kind of institutions. Yeah, we just don't have those kind of institutions anymore. I don't believe that white people are inherently racist. But these are the beliefs that a lot of Black Lives Matter leaders have. And because they have these beliefs, they're okay with their chapters, with their chapter leaders doing things like this. Doing things like, you know, discriminating against a white girl, not giving her a T-shirt, telling white people to get into the back of the line so black people can go up front, and telling people to relinquish their hard.
I understand where you're going with this, but I don't think it's fair to say that some of the actions that these people have done can speak for everybody in BLM. I agree with most of your other messaging, but.
Well, okay, but didn't you say that that if someone feels that, you know, a message isn't being properly relayed, then that it's that person's responsibility to explain if they agree or elaborate on their view of that?
Yeah, sure. So
shouldn't people involved in Black Lives Matter, instead of affirming that kind of nonsense and defending it, mm-hmm. shouldn't they say, well, no, that's not cool. We're trying to fight discrimination. We're trying to fight this and fight that. You know, shouldn't those people say that?
Yeah, and I'm sure there were, I saw some BLM people writing out against, it was just some randos on Twitter. I shouldn't even say this, but there were a lot of people that had problems with that. I don't remember.
Article.
Yeah, the article, that 10 thing. I actually tried to get her to come on because I wanted to chat with her about it. But there were a lot of progressive people that had problems with that. And I imagine there were, and I say this without having data, so I mean, you could call me on it, but I imagine there's probably a lot of BLM people that would have seen that would have had issues with that. Like people that go to BLM marches that would say, well, hold on, I don't think white people should give all their property to black people. That's fucking crazy. There are probably BLM people that do that. I just think it seems like an easy way to, so I'm not accusing you of doing this, but it seems like an easy way that if somebody wanted to discredit an entire movement, even that had a lot of legitimate ideas, these are the kinds of attacks they would launch. Let's say that I genuinely do believe that blacks are lesser than whites. I genuinely think they're bad people. And I want to tear down organizations like BLM, right? This is actually one of the reasons why BLM is decentralized, is to avoid these kinds of attacks. Whereas for the NAACP, I can say this is the leader. He's bad. Therefore, the poison tree or whatever, the root of the poison vine, whatever they call it, illegal shit, right? Everything is bad as a result of this leader, right? It seems like these are the kinds of attacks I would launch on BLM. Well, BLM has this leader, and he's been involved in this bad thing, so now all of BLM is tainted as a result of that, even though they go out of their way to be decentralized to avoid that kind of stuff,
Okay, but people aren't really lying about BLM. I mean, these are things that I have their guiding principles, right here.
Yeah, but there's not if there's a website that says we are the Black Lives Matter website, that doesn't mean anything. Anybody could make that website. I could make right now.
But this is the actual Black Lives Matter website. They have an actual website.
But there isn't. I could go and organize I could organize a BLM demonstration right now. I could put posters up in my college. I don't have to email anybody for approval or get a license from BLM or pay a due or anything. Anybody can go out and make a BLM demonstration. There's not a central organization.
Steven, I mean, I actually think you're kind of being a little dishonest here. This is the actual Black Lives Matter website. This is where you find chapters. This is where you contact them. That's where you donate to their actual website. This is where they have their own, like manifesto. These are the beliefs of Black Lives Matter. That's what they believe. Some of them I don't agree with. I'm going to post it right here in the chat right now for everybody to see.
I acknowledge that there is a blacklivesmatter.com. I know that website exists, but it's not the same as, say, like a Martin Luther King. It's not like this is who we go to for all of us to get our beliefs from, and this is who we go to like this is what we follow this person around, and this is where the demonstration. Like BLM could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It's a pretty decentralized movement, even if they have like.
It's pretty clear that it means Black Lives Matter, and that's it. You ask any Black Lives Matter, you ask any person involved in Black Lives Matter, they're going to tell you this is what Black Lives Matter is. I've never met a Black Lives Matter supporter who does not believe that Black Lives Matter isn't a collectivist, pro-Black, sometimes anti-police, and anti-police brutality, organization. That's what they believe. It's here. They believe in Black villages. We are committed to disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family structured requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, and especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Queer affirming, intergenerational, loving engagement, Black families, transgender affirming. These are all things you ask every single leader of Black Lives Matter. You think most Black Lives Matter people are for like disrupting like the nuclear matter or the nuclear family? No, that's not what they said. They're not. They're for. We are committing to disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family. The Western prescribed nuclear family involves just the immediate nuclear family. What Black Lives Matter believes is a lot what these Nation of Islamers and the 2%, whatever they call themselves, like 1%ers and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you know who they are, but they're like really extreme Nation of Islam people. The new generation Black Panthers and all these things. They believe in collectivists of Black people. Now, this is partly where, like I was talking about how there's a lack of intellectual diversity because they believe in this strong collectivist ideology for Black people. That Black people should be just this big collective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that some people might feel it, but I feel like that's not like a requirement for everybody that's in BLM. I don't feel like most BLM people would say that they're like for the deconstructing of like the traditional family and whatnot. Like some of these sound a little bit more extreme, but
then you have to be, the leaders are extreme. If these people don't believe in, then they would have to admit that they do not believe in what the leaders and creators and co-founders of Black Lives Matter has created Black Lives Matter for.
Yeah, but this is kind of what I'm saying. Like, you would never say that, like, I march, under Martin Luther King, but I don't know anything that he believes in, right? But you could say that, like, oh, yeah,
there's plenty of Black people who don't understand what Black Lives Matter actually believes in.
Sure, but they still march under the general banner of Black Lives Matter, right? That mainly cops and Black people and whatnot.
Yeah, they're still going to march under this banner, whether they're ignorant or not, to what Black Lives Matter actually believes in. But this is what Black Lives Matter actually believes in. And it's something I'm not going to get with, period. And I'm cool praising Black Lives Matter every once in a while when they do the right things. I'm cool with that. What I'm not cool with is this whole collectivist bullcrap about how, first, Black unity is a myth. It does not exist. Black people, do not, this is going to sound so stereotypical and whatever, but this is just what I've grown up with, what I've learned, and what I've dealt with. Black unity is a myth. This idea of collectivized Blackness, it just does not exist. And that's what Black Lives Matter believes in. In the end, Black Lives Matter is an organization that believes in, fighting police brutality, that believes in, drug reform. But after they do all that, if they ever actually, I don't think they'll ever actually achieve all of that. But even after they do all that, they're going to, do their communist Marxist thing. That's their thing. That's what they believe in. It is, period. That's what the leaders believe in. You go look at what the leaders believe, and that's what they're cool with. And anyone who does not agree with that of the leaders is actually antithetical to what the purpose of Black Lives Matter was created for.
I feel like that's a really big stretch. I don't feel like most
How?
people that go with BLM are for communism or Marxism. I feel like even if there are some leaders that state that, I don't think that, like, say we got to a day where all the black people in BLM are outside and the white people and everybody in BLM are outside and they're on the steps of the Washington and the White House, and then all of a sudden, you know, Trump signs the new EO saying all penitentiary systems are going to be fair and they solve all the problems.
Oh, no, that's not what they believe.
No.
I'm
I'm just saying that if that happens, I don't think everybody's going to turn around. Everybody in BLM is going to be like, all right, that's awesome. Now let's start working on our communist utopia.
But that's what they're already doing. They're doing it, period. I mean, you go, if seriously, and I encourage you to ask more of these, specifically get the Black Lives Matter leaders on there. Ask those Black Lives Matter leaders if there's a person in Black Lives Matter that does not agree with their idea that capitalism is a disease, which one of the leaders, co-founder, did actually say that capitalism is a disease. It's wrong. You know, are they truly Black Lives Matter? They'll probably tell you no. That's
all right, I guess
I'll
try to dig around and I'll see if I can find more of these like pro-communist Marxist BLM demonstrations.
I encourage you to. I actually know of a couple communists that you could probably get on your channel that are Black Lives Matter and they're black.
Well, I'm sure there are communists that are Black Lives Matter, but I'm curious if most of the people that march under BLM like genuinely believe that communism is the future that we need to head to after they accomplish whatever interim goals they have.
Well, you'll have to see, because honestly, I think a lot of young people are like disenchanted with capitalism, which is sad, but I think that a lot of them are kind of feeling that way. But anyway, like I said before, you know.
I'm just curious, do you think that conservatism has leaders or not really?
I think conservatism has very outspoken people that get a lot of attention. Conservatism isn't like, it's not like Black Lives Matter. We don't have like our own website where everybody follows these exact rules. Conservatism is just an ideology. It's not an organization. Black Lives Matter is the actual organization, not an ideology.
Well, you say an actual organization, but it doesn't collect dues. It doesn't have a real membership structure, and anybody can claim to be a part of it. It seems like a pretty weak definition for organization. No?
They're very weakly, joined together organization, but they're very much an organization. They have a founder and a co-founder. Conservatism doesn't. Conservatism is just an ideology of traditionalism and self-sustainable living, as far away from the government as possible, while living, what they believe to be, whether they're religious or not, living a relatively moral life. Black Lives Matter has a co-founder and a founder who actually has shaped the views and the
you don't think I could find
guidelines.
Major speakers on the right that kind of shape the views of how, would you go back to Tea Party-esque stuff, or people like Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh, that none of these people kind of shape the views of what a lot of conservatives think?
You can, but that doesn't mean that they're spouting off conservative views. Just like I said before with Black Lives Matter, you just said Black Lives Matter supporters have people who may not be communists. That doesn't mean that they're actually spouting off what Black Lives Matter truly believes in.
Okay, I guess I don't agree with that distinction. I don't think. I feel like.
Well, I understand. It's
sure.
Fine.
It just seems like it's
just
really
agree
weak.
to disagree.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, and so but I think we really got to the crux of what. Is there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I don't think so. I think that our big disagreement stems from responsibility in messaging from public figures is like the main thing that we ideologically completely disagree on.
Yeah. I'm just not that kind of person that just, like I said, I just don't. If somebody misconstrues what I believe in, then that's them. Somebody's gonna have to ask me sooner or later,
Gotcha.
what I actually believe in.
All right. Yeah. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about, or is that good?
No, I think I got everything that I needed to say. I think just discussing this with you, I think, I'm cool with this.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate the conversation. Thankfully, you're a million times more intelligent than most people I talk to. You know your shit really well, so I appreciate that. I thought it was going to be a huge shit show, so Thanks for
No.
the conversation. Good luck with your...
Thank you so much, and I you know, I really I appreciate you talking to me, and I in the future, you know, say whatever you want, but I might be behind you, watching, waiting, listening. No, I'm kidding. All right, okay. You have a great day, Destiny. I really do appreciate talking to you. Thank you for taking your time out to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one. Good luck.
All right.
She said I was going to be behind you waiting. I was going to say like at the ATM, but I feel like that would have killed that whole conversation. Oh shit. Okay, well, I mean, I understand her point, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know. We have very, 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 very different. So I'm of the mindset that what you say, you have to be aware of how it's going to be interpreted by a wider audience. And she is of the mindset that the wider audience's interpretation doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the intent of what you said. That's essentially like that's essentially what the disagreement was. Because you've been there before, you know that you get your audience to how you go. You know that you get the audience you cultivate. She doesn't get that. Yeah, that's probably what. It's probably a matter of scale. I think that. I also was really I didn't want to keep drilling it because I feel like she was going to get upset, but I really couldn't understand. I really did feel like she was being... I don't like to say this now because I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit. She was much better spoken than I thought she would be. Like she is very valid in terms of her argumentation. She's pretty consistent with what she believes, I think. The only things that I was having a lot of trouble deciphering was like, these words don't bother me, but you're a hypocrite. I'm trying to put this argument together. So she was saying that I was a hypocrite for saying Uncle Tom, even though I don't have problems with these words, and she doesn't have problems with these words, because she thought that saying Uncle Tom was against being pro-minority, even if you don't care about words like Uncle Tom. I couldn't piece that argument together. I couldn't bridge that. What was the meme quote you wanted to say? Oh, well, I thought it was interesting that every argument that she... Like, this was part of the confusing part. Every argument that she had against saying Uncle Tom... So basically she would say, you should never say Uncle Tom because of all these reasons. And then I would ask, okay, well, you say things like white guilt. Why are you allowed to say white guilt? She's like, well, it doesn't bother me to say things like white guilt or Uncle Tom. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, then if it doesn't bother you, then why doesn't it? Because you're a hypocrite. Well, why am I a hypocrite? Because you say that you're a pro-person of color, then you call someone an Uncle Tom. It's like, okay, well, but we don't think these words are a big deal. And it's like, okay, but calling someone an Uncle Tom is bad for these reasons. And it's like, okay, but then you say like white guilt. Okay, well, I don't believe that any of these words are bad. It's like, okay, well, if you don't believe in any of these words are bad, then why does it matter if I say that? Well, because you're a hypocrite. Right, we just like, we ran around in that circle, and that was like really, really, really confusing to me. I couldn't piece together. I was trying really hard to understand like where the hypocrite part was, but I couldn't understand that. Also, the fact that she equated like Uncle Tom with the N-word. But do you believe her that Uncle Tom can be interpreted as a racial slur by your audience? Would you stop using it? I probably won't anymore because it's not worth the fucking drama. But I think the problem is the premise that Uncle Tom is a racial slur. Yeah, and it stemmed from being almost slur level to her because we have very, very different views of like how the public views your speech.